Hello, my dear adult children of alcoholics and people from otherwise dysfunctional families. My name is Sophia. I'm the author of the book Misery to Mastery, a workbook for adult children of alcoholics, creator of the 8-week course for adult children of alcoholics, a practicing psychotherapist, and a coach. I have identified 6 patterns that adult children of alcoholics and otherwise dysfunctional families fall into. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about a pattern that I called mind reading fantasy pattern. So if you grew up in a dysfunctional household, you likely did not grow up in a scenario where you would come home from school and your parents would ask you, how are you? How was your day? And you would have the space to be able to verbalize, share your experience, and receive a response that was adequate, meaning a response that was validating to your experience and also supportive for the future outcomes. Most likely, your home was full of manipulation. So family members would act out their emotions. For example, they would pout or not speak to each other to show the other people that they are in a form of distress and try to infuse that distress into other people through this form of manipulation. Also, if you grew up in that kind of household, it is likely that when you did share your experience, you could have been dismissed, like cry me a river, you're too sensitive, get over it. Your parents or your other relatives could have acted in a way that was controlling. So they would actually control the situation in which the outcome was not in your favor, it wasn't beneficial to you. And so you would actually regret sharing the experience in the first place. Or your parents could have just been simply too busy to really pay attention to what might be happening to you internally or ask you these questions. And so what happens when you grow up in that kind of a family and you fall into this specific pattern of mind reading fantasy pattern are 3 things. The first thing is that you build stories around why your partner might be acting the way that they're acting, or the reasoning behind their feelings. That's 1. 2 is you have not learned to understand your needs. And 3, you have an extreme fear around communicating your experience, around communicating your needs. So let's take a look at the first one. So if you grew up in such a household, you probably learned really well how to be able to gauge your family members' moods and be able to act accordingly, right? And so now when you're in a relationship as an adult, let's say you gauge that your partner is upset. You might start building up stories that they're upset at you or they're not happy with the relationship, and all kinds of things might be appearing in your mind, usually with you at the center of it. And so what that does is it festers all these negative emotions of resentment towards your partner, of shame towards yourself, of feelings of worthlessness, of feelings of distress, of fear of abandonment. And so there's all these negative emotions that might come up in you if you notice that, let's say, your partner is in a bad mood. And oftentimes, if you fall into this pattern, instead of simply asking and also trusting to actually hear the true experience and the cause behind why your partner may be feeling the way that they are, you begin to fester in these emotions and then you lash out in one way or another. So being passive aggressive. And obviously you do that because it's very difficult to sit with these emotions, and it's difficult to sit with these stories that are happening in your mind. And so that can bring a lot of negativity into the relationship, and the person on the other hand might be very surprised as to why you're acting the way that you're acting. So that's the one thing that can happen. The second thing that can happen is not knowing what your needs are. So you might be in a relationship and you might be feeling distressed. Something is not working out. There's negative feelings that you're experiencing in this relationship. And what you're doing is you're looking for reasons in this relationship or in your partner to explain why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. And then you bring in blame and shame to the relationship or onto the partner. Now, it's possible that you might be experiencing negative emotions because you haven't even taken the time to sit down and to identify what would a good relationship look like to you? What are your values in this relationship? What are some things that you see you and your partner doing together? What are some things that you want reciprocated? How do you feel appreciated? How can your partner make you feel appreciated? How would you know that, right? So all these things that can be solved by just sitting down and identifying how you want to create the relationship, but instead, negative emotions are being built up because something is missing and you don't know what it is, and you begin to point fingers at what is currently happening with the partner. So a lot of times, people that feel this way, and it's really hard to feel this way, right? They might end the relationship prematurely, or once again start acting out in a relationship, start acting out these emotions in a way that is destructive to the relationship at hand. And the third is, even if you learn to identify what your needs are, you might have so much hesitation, so much fear around communicating those fears. You don't know how to go about it. And that comes from that piece of an inadequate response in childhood. If there is a consistent inadequate response, you don't trust that the response can be adequate. So you have learned to meet your needs on your own and swallow your needs. And you feel that if you communicate them, that if you share what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, you might be needing, that you might get rejected. You might fear abandonment. So there's a real hesitation, there's a real anxiety that some people have around sharing their experience and also asking for things from other people. And so in this, why I call it mind-reading fantasy pattern, because the person gets so caught up in their own ideas about what might be happening, in their own thoughts, and that festers into all these negative emotions that are so difficult to live with. They're so difficult to experience in a union with another person. And so how to work through this is you need to work with a therapist. It's really difficult to decipher this on your own. You need to have this didactic connection with another human being to be able to talk through this, to be able to process, to be able to practice asking, to be able to practice sharing. And so if you identify yourself in this pattern, I hope you can find a therapist that you enjoy. I'm also available for coaching. All the links are below. And let me know what you thought about this video. Do you relate to it? Do you not relate it? Feel free to ask me any questions. Leave it all in the comments below, and I'm going to try my best to answer them in my next Q&A series.